Hopin buys StreamYard, Sony announces their new drone, Quibi content finds a second life, and more are covered in this episode of Video Signals. Stay tuned. Welcome everyone to Video Signals, a highlight show for entrepreneurs and creators, bringing you the week's most interesting highlights in the world of video and marketing. I'm Joey Dowd, your host. Let's jump into it. All right, so for our first signal, Hopin has purchased StreamYard. Hopin is the virtual event platform that sort of blew up last year for obvious reasons. I've used it for producing shows. It's a very thorough platform. You can have main stage events. You can have breakout rooms, which are a little bit similar to having a Zoom room. You've got one-on-one meeting, which is sort of like a chat roulette type feature to kind of facilitate that spontaneity of people meeting. And then you also have like expo centers where you could have your sponsors and stuff meet in a space. So I've used Hopin to make events. When you make an event, they have a very basic behind the scenes backstage feature that they call it, and how you can produce the events yourself, or you can connect it to an external encoder, something like OBS or vMix or Wirecast. So when I produce events for clients, I use a little bit more of a higher end production backend, and that gives you a lot of control over how the event looks. You can make it look more like a TV broadcast. Their built-in controls are very limited. It's kind of what you would find in Zoom. You could screen share, you could have a little bit of a picture-in-picture, but you can't put text on. It's hard to play back video. It's hard to kind of switch between people. It's a very basic interface. Enter StreamYard, which is an online encoder. So that's kind of the software thing I just mentioned, vMix and Wirecast, but it entirely lives online. Probably seen that a lot if you have people hosting interview or panel discussions that look a little bit nicer. They have like a custom background. You can put little name keys on people. You can put branding. You can play back videos. StreamYard is what powers that. There's a couple other companies, but StreamYard is one of the biggest web-based ones. So Hopin, which has just been on a roll and growing and looking to grow further, just purchased StreamYard. According to TechCrunch, they purchased it for about $250 million, which is quite a large sum for a web-based streaming platform. And they have said that StreamYard is going to remain separate for now. Anyone that's using StreamYard, it's not going to be interrupted, but that they are going to roll StreamYard's system into Hopin's backend. So now if you're producing an event on Hopin, it's a lot easier to create much better looking events without having to learn another piece of software such as vMix or OBS. You can just do it in a much more easy click and drag way. One of the interesting things about Hopin is they enabled events to exist that might not have existed in person in the first place just because of cost restrictions. Now for $100 or whatever, you can launch a virtual event and create something that is much more tailored to a specific audience that might not have made sense to go rent out a space and put it on in person. And so adding this tool set of StreamYard is a no-brainer and only makes creating higher quality virtual events even easier and even better to do. And virtual events, even after we were able to go back and meet in person, I don't see them going anywhere. This is a trend that was happening and it just accelerated a lot. A lot of other events will probably have some sort of hybrid model, where they can have a possibly lower cost ticket and still stream out everything. And then that also creates a separate product where now you have a library of talks that you can sell a VOD package for people to download that and purchase. And then just events that started virtual or maybe transitioned to virtual, and then they found out that it works a lot better. All right, next signal, Sony's Airpeak Drone. A few episodes ago, we talked about a new drone from Sony. So now they've announced at CES the Airpeak Drone, which is the smallest drone capable of carrying an alpha camera like the popular A7S line. There's no word on price, but looking up what other comparable drones are out there, Freefly's Astro is also rated to carry the same type of camera, and that costs about $8,000. So I'd expect it to be in that same price range. In a previous signal, we talked about Freefly's Wave camera, which was the first camera to come from Freefly, the drone manufacturer. That targets very specific use. It's a very super slow motion camera. And so you're seeing a drone manufacturer make a camera there. And now we're seeing it in the other direction where a camera manufacturer is making a drone. But we have seen that before. If you remember, GoPro tried and failed with Karma. So if we look at the drone space, DJI has pretty much dominated the consumer and the prosumer end. You got the Mavic, got the Inspire. Yeah, they do make some bigger drones, but the bigger drone end has been more dominated by Freefly, both in their drones and in their gyro stabilizing market. So, for Sony to come out with a drone, does it make sense? I don't think so. Especially targeted specifically to the A7S market. That is a great camera, and a lot of people love it. Are you going to buy a drone to support your camera, but the drone's going to be 2 to 3 times as much as your camera? I don't know. Maybe. Next one. 60 new magazines launched in 2020. While everyone is saying print is dead, as was pointed out by Andy Meek in Forbes, there were actually 60 brand new print, paper copy magazines that were launched in 2020. So admittedly, that is down from the number of new magazines that launched in 2019, which was 139 magazines launched. But still, 60 new magazines in 2020, in a year of pandemic, still launched. A couple ones of note that launched. NBA star Stephen Curry's wife, Aisha Curry, launched a quarterly food, home, and lifestyle magazine called Sweet July. Freefly. Real Simple launched another magazine that they automatically sent to their current million subscribers called Millie, a financial quarterly aimed at women called Millie. Celebrity fitness trainer Tracy Anderson began publishing Tracy Anderson magazine. HGTV stars Drew and Jonathan Scott launched a magazine called Reveal. And so those are just a couple of the standout ones that they pointed out in Forbes. The thing of note here and of interest, obviously, there is still a market for print magazines and people like having that tangible aspect, but they make most of their money not from advertising, but from subscription revenue. And subscription revenue is a huge trend in the creator space, especially when we talk about creators going out on their own with Substack, writing and having people subscribe to a paid newsletter or paying for, Patreon, paying for additional content, additional videos from creators that they like. This just kind of, I feel like, doubles down and reinforces that, yes, that is a viable market, especially when something that has a much higher hard cost, such as printing and designing and doing a layout of a magazine, can at least launch. Who knows how successful these are? Who knows how long these magazines go on? And I'd be curious to see how long they last in the timeline of their existence. But, as pointed out in Forbes, the interesting fact is that they exist mostly off of subscription revenue and not just advertising revenue. So I think that's an interesting trend that you can take away, especially if you're in the creator space or you're looking to launch or sell your own type of virtual product. And our last signal, Quibi, the dumpster fire of a streaming service that I love to track and send links to my friends about. Their content might have a second life or third life with Roku. So Roku is obviously a huge streaming device manufacturer that, turns their TV into a smart TV, very similar to an Apple TV. But they are also trying, like every other company, to create their own streaming network, streaming platform, have their own Roku channel that has their own original content. So they're purchasing the Quibi catalog or licensing out the duration that they can of the Quibi catalog to put on their own Roku TV network. Obviously, it makes sense. Everyone needs content. Oprah Winfrey's network just sold most of their stake to Discovery, which Discovery just launched Discovery Plus. Disney's been pulling up all of their content. Netflix just announced that they've got like a new movie every single week of the year to reinforce that they have crazy amounts of content, and they obviously have delivered on that in 2020. So any type of streaming service, the name of the game is how do you get your own original content. So Roku is going the route of buying Quibi. I say licensing because even from the origin, Quibi's deal was just very kind of bizarre. All of the shows and content that they produced, they didn't actually own it. Like if Netflix produces something, Netflix owns that for the most part. They could do whatever they want with it for perpetuity. Quibi, when they produced the stuff, they had a license for the content for 7 years. After 7 years, it goes back to the original content creator. So whatever Roku is buying and the purchase price was not disclosed or not known, they're not actually buying the content outright. They're buying the remainder of that licensing time of the 6 years, 5 years that's left on the content. For them to launch, that's probably enough time to determine if Roku TV is going to work with their own original content or not. And then I'm sure they could, after 7 years, relicense it or whatever. And if you're discounting Roku, kind of being an underdog in this, they are an underdog, but they also do have 46 million accounts. Another interesting note, according to New York Times, if you want to know how much content you need to have a shot at creating your own streaming network, Discovery Plus launched with 55,000 plus hours of unscripted content. I don't know how that compares to something like Disney. Obviously, Disney has much bigger titles, or Discovery has every reality show and house cleaning show, house remodeling show ever. So Roku has 46 million accounts. I don't know the number of actual Apple TV units compares. Obviously, there's a lot of smart TVs out. You don't even need an extra device. The TVs come built in with the ability to download apps. But Roku growing, I believe, only benefits people or creators or companies that are trying to launch their own micro VOD platform. So, it's very easy to launch an OTT type setup, through Vimeo, where let's say you're a fitness company, a yoga company, trying to do your own masterclass type format in a specific niche. If you had a lot of content that you're trying to sell monthly access to, you're not going to be able to compete with any of these major networks, but you could be the huge thing for a very small number of people that are willing to pay the $10 to $20 for your content that is very interesting or exciting to them. It's easier to develop stuff for a Roku TV set, slightly lower barrier of entry. Not saying that these are all very easy to do technically wise. You still have to pay money to a Vimeo OTT to set it up, or there's a couple of other platforms if you wanted to launch your own VOD app. But Roku is a little bit easier to develop for, so if more people use Roku, better for you as a content creator to be on that platform as well. It's a little bit easier than to create an app on the iTunes Apple TV store. that's sort of like my small takeaway from this. If you are in that space of like trying to have your own on-demand platform for your business, more people on Roku, more eyeballs there will only help your business by being a destination spot where people are already on that system versus developing, paying that extra cost to develop for Roku and like there's no eyeballs there and people aren't there. So that's my small takeaway from that. That's it for this week's Video Signals. I hope you found something useful here, picked up some useful information. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. We'll have all the links in the newsletter and in the description below. The newsletter has a little bit more notes and thoughts and analysis. If there's anything I missed or something you want to share, please leave it in the comments below. If you like content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.